Hey there, weirdos. It's Thursday. My name is Sarah, and I am joined, as always, by...
I'm Chris.
And I'm Mackenzie.
And this podcast is for weirdos.
What are we talking about?
I was gifted a book for my birthday last year
Yeah.
from our friend Brian. Brian.
Brian.
This is
Brian.
your official shout out.
Brian, friend of the podcast.
Brian, friend of the podcast.
Chalupa Cabra.
Chalupa Cabra. He does SCA stuff with me. He's my A&M, my arts and science mentor in regards to that kind of
service.
stuff. And service. But specifically for this, which he
yeah.
wasn't when he gifted me this book, but I put out a list last year for my birthday of being like, if you're one of the people who wants to buy me something and doesn't know what to buy, but you're insistent on buying me a present, buy me something off of this wish list of books.
Yeah.
And
You
they
had a
were
very
all-
lovely Amazon wish list full
yeah,
of books.
there were hundreds of books on it that I was like,
yeah.
any one of these.
Any one of these, I'll be thrilled to have.
I would love to have. Brian went, cool, but no. And instead, he got me this book, which is called The First Ghosts, Most Ancient of Legacies, by Irving Finkel. So it's a, as you can see,
It's a chunky
It's
bitch.
pretty chunky.
it's a chunky bitch.
Chunky boy.
I had a lot of things to
Say about it.
note about this book. And so I'm going to do a definitely 2-part book report for you on this book. So this is part 1 of First Ghosts. And it is this book, before we even get into anything, I am going to say, if you're interested in like paranormal stuff, if you're interested in ghosts casually, the episodes of this podcast will be enough of the book for you. You don't need to read it. It is very academic. It is written by an academic. And parts of it are very like sloggy to get through because it's very academic. Parts of it very much read like a textbook.
I mean, you've been trying to read it for
I've been trying to read it for 2
year.
years. I got it for my birthday, or for a year, like a full calendar year essentially at this point. I got it for my birthday last year. I started it originally and was like, oh my God, this is great. And then I was like, oh, this is like really dense and it's rich and good information. But I was like, this is not a before bed read. This is a set time aside to read. And it took me a couple of months to actually like get through and process because I'd have to like read a chapter and then like digest that chapter.
Right.
So if you are not of an academic like thought process in your brain, I do not recommend you buy this book. However, I don't tell you what to do. Do whatever you want. It's a fantastic book, and I loved reading it, and I love that I get to tell you guys about it.
Right.
I made them to do book reports so that I could do this book.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I need to talk about this on the podcast.
I'm so excited, dude.
So the first thing that we're going to talk about before we get into the actual book is we're going to talk a little bit about the author, so that way we kind of understand where he's coming from and why he
Mr.
is,
Finkel.
why he is like an authority on this topic. So
Right.
Irving Finkel was born in 1951 and is an English philologist and a Syriologist.
Yes.
Those are the words that you will find out what they mean in a second. He has a PhD in Assyriology from the University of Birmingham, with his dissertation being on Babylonian exorcist spells against demons.
Hell
Holy
yeah.
shit.
So homie knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He is the assistant keeper of ancient Mesopotamian script, languages, and culture in the Department of the Middle East at the British Museum, where he specializes in cuneiform inscriptions on clay tablets from Mesopotamia.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Also, I'm going to say right now, there's a couple of different ways to say that word, cuneiform. Cuneiform, and cuneiform are all correct pronunciations of it. It's just American English versus British English kind of thing. I am going to say cuneiform for most of this. It's the script of Mesopotamia, the first writing system. Another cool claim to fame he determined the rules of the royal game of Ur, which is this ancient game. It's a very fun game.
Apparently Brian loves it.
Brian loves this game. It's a very fun game. It's easy to learn, and it's a quick game to play most of the time.
Yeah.
He also founded the Great Diary Project, which is a mission to preserve the diaries of ordinary people around the world, like modern and not modern, but like that's the goal, is to preserve ordinary people's diaries.
That's really cool.
Oh, like not high level.
Right, like
people.
just guys,
like us.
like ours, like our journals kind of thing. Yeah, it's a cool project which has preserved over 2,000 diaries to date.
Like physical diaries only, or
I don't know for sure.
I'm gonna look into that project.
Yeah, it's a
later.
cool project. He's also written several works of fiction for children.
Cute.
Oh,
So
sick.
like just an all-around interesting man.
Yeah.
So the two words that I said earlier, philology and Assyriology.
Yeah.
Here's what those are. Philology is the study of language in oral and written historical sources. It's like an intersection of textual criticism, literary criticism, history, and linguistics with an emphasis on etymology.
Gotcha.
So, like,
That's
if you
neat.
are a cuneiform scholar, you kind of have to be a philologist too, because that language is the original written language.
Yeah.
So it has all of that other stuff tied into it.
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
Can you spell that for me?
Nope.
PH.
PH
Got it.
IL ology.
Got it.
Phil,
Phil,
like the name,
Like the name.
ology.
Okay.
And then
Thank you.
Assyriology is also just known as cuneiform studies or ancient Near East studies, is the archaeological, anthropological, historical, and linguistic studies of cultures that used cuneiform writing.
Oh.
The field covers a lot of stuff: pre-dynastic Mesopotamia, Sumer, the early Sumero-Akkadian city-states, the Akkadian Empire, and so on and so forth. Basically, anyone that used cuneiform
Mhm.
falls under Assyriology.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's his background for this book. Also, that means we are going to be saying a lot of words that
Yep.
are Mesopotamian in nature.
Not English.
You are going to be saying.
I'm going to be saying a lot of words
We are here to listen.
that are Mesopotamian in nature.
I will be hearing them.
Yes. So the way that I've broken this down is chapter by chapter.
Okay.
So one thing that's really cool about this book is every section
Mhm.
starts with a Shakespeare quote.
Oh,
Fun.
sick.
So
up
like
your
each,
alley.
yeah,
This book was
Literally,
written for you.
It was. So even before the the book hasn't started yet. This is the copyright page.
Yeah.
It's from Hamlet. Like I opened it and I went, good. I do believe I took a picture of that, sent it to Brian, and went, I've been read.
And that's when Pocket Hamlet was still living in your pocket.
Yeah, Pocket Hamlet
actively
was
every
still
day.
because I was at work.
Yeah.
No, I didn't
Well-
have my job anymore, but I still was like going out and doing stuff and still carrying my Pocket
Yeah.
Hamlet all the time because I wasn't just at home.
You're
the,
busy.
The author's note starts with this quote from Richard II. Let's talk of graves or worms and epitaphs. May dust our paper. So, like, that's how this book starts.
Hell yeah.
And then, because you're going to get I'm going to read to you a lot today.
I'm good.
I'm just going to read you the first paragraph of this book.
Okay.
I myself have never seen a ghost. I have often wondered about them, though, ever since my lifelong friend, Peter Blakeborough, saw one, he thinks, in about 1958 when he was 7. He first told me about what happened in 1971, and his description made a huge and lasting impression on me. I have kept an optimistic eye open for a ghost ever since, and in some unfathomable way, Peter's Lady in Black from those early days became part of my own life memories. Later, my doctoral thesis on Babylonian exorcistic magic contained cuneiform spells for driving ghosts away, the first time that Mesopotamian ghosts in particular reared their heads over the parapet, crooking a bony finger. In all the subsequent decades, however, I have still never seen a ghost for myself, even in the shadier vaults of the British Museum, where the ancient dead can lie peacefully, and many of the living have witnessed strange things. Sometimes I have crouched immobile in the evening darkness at the top level of our Victorian arched room library, like a wildlife photographer at a waterhole, waiting in silence for a spectral figure who has, they say, more than once been observed. For me, though, no shady visitor. I have met many persons of honesty and integrity who tell me that they have seen a ghost in the course of their own modern lives, and I cannot find a single reason whatsoever to disbelieve them.
Homie just wants to see a ghost.
He just wants to see a ghost. So, like, he's coming from a place of, like, it would be silly to not believe in ghosts.
I want to take Mr. Irving. Doctor?
So he is a PhD, Never once have I found him referred to as Dr. Irving Finkel.
Okay, Mr. Irving Finkel. We should invite him to go on a ghost hunt
We
with
should.
us.
He'd probably come. He'd
Yeah.
probably come with us. He's an interesting man.
And then we can also play the royal game of with him.
Oh yeah.
I would love to.
Okay, so then I'm going to read you literally just like 2 more quick paragraphs
Yep.
from the author's note, because it's like the rest of this I can kind of summarize a lot of it, but these 2 paragraphs, it's like he did a really good
Are
job.
excellent.
Like he painted good word pictures.
Good.
This book has been written to breathe life into dry bones and install Mesopotamian ghosts firmly on the historical ghost map. They are quite literally the first ghosts in human history that we can really speak about, for we can read and understand Mesopotamians' own words on the subject today, often more than 4,000 years later, from their day-to-day inscriptions excavated out of the ground. There is no book in existence in any modern language that even begins to cover all that we know about Mesopotamian ghosts, but there are extraordinary riches within these pages to surprise the interested reader.
I'm so excited.
So, like, this literally is like, where do ghosts come from?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. That's what this book is fucking about.
I'm so excited.
So then the author's note ends with, ghosts, of course, have walked by our side since time immemorial and did not begin with the ancient Mesopotamians. The belief that the dead can return and interact with the living is so extremely deep-seated and so universally distributed throughout time and geography that it could be classified, were we Martian encyclopedists armed with pencil and notebook, as one clear component of basic humanity. It is the purpose of this book to seek out, with the help of archaeology and especially the most ancient writing, the very first ghost within our reach.
Fuck yeah.
And then I wrote, "Oh no, I love him," in my book. So that's the author's note.
My goodness.
Let's
Chapter
go.
1.
Chapter 1.
Chapter 1. So chapter 1 is called Ghosts at the Beginning.
Okay.
So this is before we have anything written. This is just about like early humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So the chapter starts us with the concept of burial. And we talk about the difference between intentional burial for respectful or ritual purposes versus intentional burial because dead bodies are gross,
Yeah.
right? Because those are 2 very different things.
Yeah.
Like, people, even early humans, knew dead bodies should not be kept around living people.
Yeah.
And they would bury them or get rid of them in some way because you shouldn't have a dead body around.
Dead bodies are gross.
Dead bodies are gross. It was not a, this is Uncle Rob, we must lay him to rest. It was, that is now corpse, get it out of my house. We then get this quote, shared ritual tied with mourning would come to teach that individual life itself was finite. So like somehow, at some point, we come to that belief in humanity. We also talk in this chapter about how burial and mourning are not solely a human thing within the vast animal kingdom. Chimps and other great apes have been observed to mourn their dead and take care of their deceased relatives in some way. And elephants are like known by people to be the chief mourners in the animal kingdom. They will cover their dead with leaves and branches, and they will often return to sites of fallen, like elephant graveyards, year later to like gently touch the bones of dead elephants and like recognize like, oh, it doesn't seem like they know like, oh, this was Jim. It's more of a like, these are my ancestors, or these are my relatives.
This is another elephant.
This is another elephant who has died. And it's like a group of elephants will have an elephant graveyard, and they will go back every now and then. And elephants, when they are sick, will go to the elephant graveyard to die. Like,
wow.
it's a very interesting thing. The distinction that we get to is grave goods. That's the difference between humans and animals.
Yeah.
So the first maybe grave goods that we have are in a Neanderthal burial, actually.
Hell yeah.
Called at Shanidar. These are the first flower people. And they were called that because of what appeared to be a bunch of flowers that were laid to rest with the deceased. Unfortunately, it proved to be a much later incursion of pollen into this cave where these people were buried.
Okay.
However, the cave was full of the bones of Neanderthals, some of whom were killed in a rock fall, but many of whom were very clearly and deliberately laid out, put to rest, like in classic like grave position. at this tomb.
So like with arms crossed,
Either arms
or
crossed
arms
or
down?
like fully down beside their sides. Like they were laid out
Yeah.
in this cave.
they were
They were
there.
placed there with deliberation and care, and like separated, like up on little rocks. Like, oh, this is for this person.
this is
for
your
this
spot
person.
now.
Yeah. So that's when we start getting like, oh, this isn't just. There's more going on here.
Yeah, there's something happening.
My next section just says grave goods time in all caps.
Woohoo!
Grave
I love
goods.
some grave goods.
They start to appear, showing a belief that this dead guy will need stuff for some reason.
Yeah.
Right? So then there's this quote. In this regard, there is no intrinsic difference between one wispy bracelet of cracked beads and the entire contents of Tutankhamun's burial chamber.
Correct.
From burial goods, we can imply three things. Quote, 1, something survives of a human being after death.
Mm-hmm.
2, that something, whatever that something is, escapes the grasp of the corpse and goes somewhere. Right? 3, that something, when it goes somewhere, can quite reasonably be expected to be capable of coming back. Right? So, basically, 1, there's a spirit inside this body.
Okay.
2, that spirit leaves your body and goes somewhere else.
Yes.
If we believe that spirit goes somewhere else, it can come back from that somewhere else.
Okay.
Right? Like, if we have spirit and it can leave, it can come back.
So if it can go to from A to B,
it can go from B to A. Right.
Okay.
From this vantage point, we can reckon that ghosts survived on the stage by the Upper Paleolithic, perhaps around 50,000 BCE.
Cool.
Because that's when we start having grave goods. That's when we start having this very clear belief that, oh, you need something after you're dead. That means that something inside you is going somewhere, which means that something inside you can come back. Is the game that we're playing here, if that makes sense. This belief in the afterlife is what sets us apart from our animal friends who mourn and bury their dead. Obviously, we don't know if elephants believe in an afterlife. We can't talk to them and ask.
Right.
They don't have a writing system to tell us. It's entirely possible that they go on to the elephant afterlife.
Yeah.
But we can't talk to them, so we don't know. It is the incalculable antiquity. What? Yep.
That's
I
a
just,
word.
I just, there. It looked like there was a comma. There's not a comma. It is the incalculable antiquity of the first stirrings toward post-mortem existence that explains the enduring and universal belief in ghosts. Ghosts have waited in the wings from the beginning and have fluttered persistently as part of human cultural, religious, or philosophical baggage ever since. Practically speaking, as a result, they are inexpungible.
Mm-hmm.
So the incalculable antiquity of first stirrings towards post-mortem existence means we don't know how long ago we actually get a belief in the afterlife because we don't have it written down.
Yeah.
We can only assume
It predates.
written language. All we know is we can assume that we had deliberate burial with no grave goods, and then suddenly we have deliberate burial with grave goods, and we know from written history that grave goods usually imply belief in an afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, if we can assume that, then we can backdate belief in an afterlife to when we first start finding grave goods,
Mm-hmm.
which means at that point, we can assume there are ghosts. Because if you believe in an afterlife,
You believe your spirit.
you
can
believe your
be-
spirit goes somewhere, which means that your spirit exists and could be a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
We also get in this chapter some very specific ghost lore from who are these? Babylonians? No, the Assyrians. It's an inscription from 643 BCE when the it's Ashurbanipal, I figured it was him, dispatched his army to go fuck over the Elamites.
Okay.
He's like, go fight the Elamites.
Yeah.
And he did the following. I destroyed and demolished the tombs of their kings earlier and later who did not revere Asur and Ishtar, my lords, and had disturbed the kings my ancestors. So the Elamites had come and like fucked with the dead kings in Nineveh, and so Ashurbanipal was like, hey, fuck you, I'm also going to do that. And I exposed them to the sun. I took their bones to Assyria and prevented their ghosts from sleeping and deprived them of funerary offerings and water pouring. So basically, he's like, I'm making these ghosts restless.
Yeah.
I'm ripping their ghosts out of the netherworld, and I'm forcing them to be wandering ghosts by depriving them of funeral offerings and doing all of this stuff. So that's chapter 1. Chapter 1 is like the early stirrings. Chapter 2. Ancient Mesopotamia, home to the first ghosts. This is where we get to a lot of words. A lot of words in Sumerian and Akkadian. So this is where we start talking about actual language and the cuneiform text. So cuneiform in this book is primarily referring to Sumerian texts and Akkadian, Babylonian texts. So Akkadian is the language, the people are Babylonian.
Yeah.
Cuneiform is the first ever written language, preceded only by Proto-Cuneiform, and therefore it is the start of history. History specifically refers to shit that's been written down.
Yeah.
Like, that's why we have such a thing as prehistoric. It happened in the past, but it's before we have written language. Thankfully for us, this writing was made in clay tablets, and therefore a significant amount of it survives to be translated by people like Finkel. Because he is a cuneiform translator. He can read this shit, which is bananagrams. It is from some of these tablets that we get the first ever words for ghost written down by humanity.
That's so cool.
So in Sumerian, the word was gedim, Gedim, in our alphabet.
Get him.
And in Akkadian, it was etemu.
Etemu.
Etemu. Etemmu. Etemu.
Those are very nice words.
They are good. They're good words.
I am such a sucker for like being able to use these ancient like first words.
Right.
Because like we just said them back and forth and suddenly I feel like they're in the room.
They're in the room.
The Assyrians
are here.
They're
The
looking.
Sumerians,
They're going.
The Sumerians and the Babylonians are watching. They're like,
going,
who the fuck are you? What are you
the
saying?
fuck is going on?
Every other word around that isn't a word that I know.
Yeah, they go
Ghost? What does that mean?
ghost and then ghost.
Yeah.
Hello?
They hear ghost, Sumerian, ghost, Akkadian, and they're like, I know all of those words, but what is everything else that you said?
Yeah, what?
So the interesting thing of specifically like those words is we see them in their creation of man stories. So there's 2 different versions of this story, and I'm going to read you both. They're like super short. This is the earlier version. We have, let the one god be slaughtered, which is instructed by the god Ea, that all the gods may be cleansed thereby. Let Nintu mix clay with his flesh and blood. Let God and man be blended together in clay, that forever after we may hear the heartbeat. From the god's flesh let there be spirit. Let it, the heartbeat, make known the living as its sign, and that this be not forgotten, let there be spirit. They slaughtered We'ilu, who possessed intelligence, in their assembly. Nintu mixed clay with his flesh and blood. Forever after they heard the heartbeat, from the god's flesh there was spirit. It, the heartbeat, made known the living at its sign, and so this was not forgotten, there was spirit. So this is how we get the concept of etemu.
Yeah. So I was about to ask. I was like, did those words mean ghost or spirit?
So, it's spirit, which they translate as ghost, but it also means soul.
Yeah.
Which we'll learn a lot in this book. Like, I think that we, in modern times, think of your ghost and your soul kind of as 2 distinct things.
Almost,
like, your
yeah.
soul is what's in you while you're living, and then the ghost is what's there after you die if you're stuck here. But if you're not stuck here, your soul moves on to another plane. Like, they're 2 different things. For the Mesopotamians, they were the same thing.
I think it's probably similar to the way that, like, what is it? Like, the thing that, like, Inuit has, like, 14 different words for snow, but we only have the word snow.
Right.
Latin has, like, 8 different words for
Correct.
love.
Correct. Because they have, in this specific culture, it's like, no, it's one thing.
It's the
same thing. The thing that goes to the underworld or the netherworld or the thing that stays here, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. It's just spirit. And so he uses the word ghost because that's more what we're used to for the thing that lingers here. But they're the same.
Okay.
So this is the second version. This is a later version, so a more recent version.
Mm-hmm.
Let Belet Ili mix his flesh and blood with some clay, so that God and man are mixed together in the clay. Let it beat, so that we may hear it for the rest of time. Let the spirit be produced from the God's flesh. It shall reveal its sign in a living being, a sign never to be forgotten, the spirit. Belet Ili mixed his flesh with blood and some clay, so that God and man were mixed together in the clay. It beat so that she would hear it for the rest of time. Spirit was produced from God's flesh. It revealed its sign in a living being, a sign never to be forgotten, the spirit. So then we get the very interesting thing. We, W-E, is the word meaning the God, and temu is the word meaning intelligence. So when we get etemu, wetemu, that means spirit. So the word for ghost is literally God plus intelligence equals ghost.
So it almost, to me, with my Catholic background,
Yep.
reads like free will.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what sets, like, in Catholic
Yep.
theology,
Mhm.
it's what sets people apart from animals is free will.
Correct.
And so that is often linked to having a soul.
Yep. So it's like
Interesting.
God plus intelligence, will, whatever,
Mhm.
equals this spirit. And it also is important to note that they're saying that, like, gods, their gods,
Mhm.
don't have souls. They are,
But they are the soul.
yeah, they are the gods are imbuing humans with
part
souls.
of them.
With part of their divinity, but that's what gives people souls.
Yeah.
Is this. So
Yeah.
gods don't necessarily have souls.
Interesting.
Their divinity is what gives man a soul.
right, but they
They don't have
they
that.
don't have soul, but they
Correct.
are soul.
Correct.
In the way of immortality versus the small amount of soul given is more
Correct.
mortal.
I think it's that kind of thing of like gods are an immortal thing. Humans have the ability to die. We're going to give them this little bit of divinity so that way they can have this afterlife and live kind of forever in the
Okay.
afterlife sort of thing.
Okay.
So the belief in an afterlife in Mesopotamia meant that people expected the dead to stay in said afterlife, right?
They stay there.
They stay there.
They go there and they don't come back.
Nevertheless, ghosts still came back.
Interesting.
Yeah, and seems to be incredibly similar to what we think of as a ghost today. Non-corporeal, recognizable, like you can see that that's a person. And
That's Billy Bob.
that's a guy you know, probably. Unless something big prevented a burial, death away from home, etc., a person is usually buried in a timely manner in the traditional place beneath the floor of his home.
Oh.
Yeah. Based on current ghost lore, it makes sense that these people would come back to haunt their loved ones. They're literally buried on the floor.
Yeah.
There were occasionally burial places outside of the home on the outskirts of town, but
Wouldn't
these...
that be stinky?
Well, not if you buried them really deep.
If you put them in the ground, like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, cemeteries don't stink.
Even
Yeah.
older ones that have, like, that people weren't buried in, like,
In
coffins.
coffins.
Because they
Sure.
buried them pretty deep. They dug, like, a deep pit and put them in the pit under the ground. So they were occasionally these burial places outside of town on the outskirts, but these were considered places to be avoided because they would be full of unowned ghosts. Because if you weren't buried in your home, that meant that you weren't being given offerings.
You were homeless.
You were homeless. You didn't have someone to take care of you. You didn't have any of that kind of stuff.
It's like in like Hispanic culture. Like if you don't live on somebody's ofrenda,
Yes.
you get
You are forgotten. Correct.
and you are lost.
And you are lost. It's very similar to that. Like you are a lot of reason for ghosts in this culture is that
being
they are
forgotten.
not being offered
They're not
their
being cared
offerings.
for.
They're not being taken care of in the afterlife. So we have a little poem for you talking about like putting someone to rest
Okay.
and like why are you back kind of thing.
Yeah. What the
Why-
fuck
why is this
do
goes
you-
back?
Why are you? Why? What do you need?
You are the offspring of the wind. I have laid you in the grave. I have sent you down. Why did you not fear my solemn oath? Please go away.
Leave.
You're supposed to stay in the afterlife.
You're supposed to stay not here.
Go.
Based on surviving cuneiform, they were plentiful and commonplace ghosts were
Oh.
in the cuneiform world.
Wow.
These ghosts were as varied as they are today, sometimes being seen, others only heard, still others merely felt. And as we have today, these ghosts were joined by a host of other non-human entities that lived to pester the Mesopotamians. What we would call demons are Udug in Sumerian and Utuku in Akkadian. Udug and Utuku. These terms were as well known to the Mesopotamians as the word demon is to us today. And they would be like, "It's fucking Udug coming to fuck with me," or "It's an Utuku."
Jesus Christ, fucking Udugs.
Last thing that I have, I have a little thing to read you. Magic spells list the different kinds of persons who would be expected to come back as a ghost and offer escape from their attentions. Omens cover seeing, hearing, meeting, or interacting with ghosts and what that might imply. And rituals deal with ghosts when they got out of hand, treating and freeing up patients who were physically or mentally affected for the worse by ghostly attentions. So we have all three of those in the following of the book. We have spells about ghosts. We have a list of omens covering, like, if you see X, this will happen. And then there are rituals for, like, oh, you're being, like, fucked with. This is how you get rid of it. Which is incredibly similar to the shit we have today.
Yeah.
Like, exorcisms exist when things get out of hand. Most of the time people are like we have Mike, right? He's not troublesome. He's just here.
He's just here.
We
He's
know
just
that
present.
he's here. We have my dead brother is here. Like, he's not troublesome. I want him to be around. We're not going to do anything about it.
Exactly.
He doesn't cause problems. None of them cause problems. They're just ghosts that are here.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of what the Mesopotamians kind of had. Next chapter. Done.
Woo-hoo.
Chapter 2.
Chapter
2 done. We're on to chapter 3. The
Woo-hoo.
death and burial of kings
Ooh.
is this next chapter.
Okay.
Quote, dead Mesopotamian bodies and their constituent parts did not and do not, as a rule, withstand burial in the ground.
Perfect.
We don't often find remains.
They're gone.
They're gone just because they oftentimes, especially of like non-royals, they
Yeah.
were just buried in the floor of the house.
Yeah. And then
They-
like climate and
Right.
type and
Right.
area, they don't
They don't survive.
they're not preserved. in
Correct.
any
It's
sort
not
of
like
way.
mummies.
Right. And like the bones degrade and
Correct.
become dust.
Again, it's been a long ass time.
4,000 years.
4,000 years. However, we have the kings and queens at Ur, who were, the excavation happened between 1926 and 1932 by Sir Leonard Woolley and his team did this excavation, and they uncovered 16 graves of the city of Ur's elite.
Okay.
Some of the names found at the site include, get ready for a list of names.
I'm so ready.
Mescalimdug,
Hell yeah.
Mesanapada,
That's a good name. I like
Akalimdug,
a Callumdug.
Aanapada, nope, Aanapada, and
Aana.
each of their assorted queens.
Okay.
So those are all kings. Queen Puabi was the second wife of Mescalimdug and the most famous of these queens. Like, she's known in writing and stuff. These tombs were designed, they were a deep pit with an entrance ramp and then a central tomb chamber. And the dead individual was laid on matting in the tomb with a bunch of shit, like all of their luxury, grave goods and stuff, and then it was covered over with matting and filled in. So unlike the tombs in Egypt where they were just sealed off, these were like, here's a mat, here's you and all your stuff, here's another mat, dirt. Like, they were completely filled in. This is also the first example of a deceased royal being accompanied in death by their staff, seemingly killed for the purpose of accompanying their boss to the afterlife.
Yeah.
One tomb excavated at this site contained 79
Wow.
attainers. Yeah. Grave goods included gold and silver bowls, elaborately produced musical instruments, decorated items of furniture, carts and sledge, tools and weapons, jewelry made from precious metals and costly materials, some of it imported from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, Anatolia, and Syria. Like, these people were fucking rich. And he also, of course, included and wonderful game boards. Our board game boy.
The Royal Game of
The Royal
Ur.
Game of Ur. Even the dead retainers lying outside had decorated carts with their draft animals buried with them and the instruments that they would have used in court. So, like, they had their shit to continue attending to these royals in the afterlife.
Wow.
Yeah. This is the only place in Mesopotamian archaeology that we find these retainer graves. And we do know that, like, in Egypt, a little bit later than when this was happening at that they had completely stopped doing retainer graves, and they were doing the little figurines of, like, oh, this is a figurine of your handmaiden. This is a figurine of your plow driver. Like, so that when the royals departed to the afterlife, they would have their staff, but they weren't killing their staff to go with them.
Right. So they could still keep people who were knowledgeable on how to do the job around.
Correct. So
Fascinating.
yeah. My note just says, read this list. This is a list about the afterlife stuff. Ancient Sumerians buried their dead in the belief that they would be going on, or rather down, to the netherworld, a world obviously in large measure comparable to that from which they had just departed. So, like, you need all this shit because you're probably going to have the same job in the afterlife.
Yeah. And the world there is
Similar.
equivalent enough that all of the things from
that you
here-
had will be useful there.
Yeah.
2, the dead would need material possessions. The nature and content of the royal graves are, of course, wonderfully anomalous for the time period, but the underlying belief pattern is conventional. There is no question that these buried objects could have been just for the pomp of burial or the transience of the journey. Full baggage fitted them out with what they cherished when alive and would need in the world beyond, with leisure and scope for, so to speak, served afternoon tea and conversation. So, like, they were like, when I die, I expect Jimmy to still be the guy who's pouring my tea. Jimmy, in the afterlife.
Jimmy.
Tea, please. 3, those in charge during life clearly counted on retaining their previous social standing in the new world, requiring servants and staff quite as much as they did when they were alive. So, like, when you die, you're having the same job in the afterlife.
Right.
The servants from the apparently peaceful way in which they were laid out might have seemed to have accepted their fate, unless, as had periodically been suggested, they were drunk, drugged, or poisoned. Many a cup lay at hand. Like, there were a bunch of cups in the grave also. Not with the retainers, but there were a lot of drinking vessels in the graves. Later research on surviving skulls established that some of the male retainers whose skeletons showed signs of intense physical labor during their working lives and who were hardly the courtiers of Versailles had also had their heads bashed in.
Oh, no.
Which removes a portion of the easy romantic glamour that they seemed to be, like, cool about this.
Yeah.
And only a few of these people were slim handmaidens attending the highest in the land, sporting wobbly floral headdresses that today make such glorious museum exhibits. So, like, it's a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it doesn't seem like there's any evidence of this before these 16 graves or any evidence after these 16 graves. So it's like, basically, these royals who had this set of tombs and, like, this kind of lineage were the ones who were like, we need our people in the afterlife. Kill them.
Yeah.
And then after that era stopped, it stopped. And we haven't found any more evidence of it anywhere else in the Mesopotamian world. That doesn't mean that there isn't any. It just means we haven't found it. There could be more.
Yeah.
Elsewhere. So then we have the king of Ur-Nama. Ur-Nama
Ur-Nama.
is his name.
I thought you said Ur-Not.
Ur-Not.
And I was like,
Nope.
sure, I guess.
King of Ur-Nama.
Ur-Nama.
500 years roughly after those royal graves
Yeah.
were put in the ground, he was laid to rest. There is a 242-line poem about his descent. I'm not reading it to you.
Thank you.
Appreciated.
But I don't have it. He didn't include it in the book.
Oh, okay.
Also, I wouldn't read that to you. It's insane. But, quote, as the end of his life approached, Ur-Nama was likened by the poet to a boat in a storm, a curious echo of the image in Sumerian birth incantations of the unborn baby drifting as a loaded vessel in its mother's womb seeking to come to harbor. So it's this interesting parallel of, at the end of your life, you're in a boat seeking harbor in a storm, and the beginning of your life is the same way, which makes sense because, like, you're floating around in there as a little baby
Yeah, you're floating.
trying to come out.
It's a safe space.
I hate you.
They can come out whenever they'd like.
They can come out whenever they want. Ur-Nama was to be taken by chariot to the gates of the netherworld, and he was met with a tumultuous welcome and a banquet. He made offerings to all of the gods of the underworld, or the netherworld, the gatekeepers, and to the dead kings who preceded him in the netherworld. As a royal in life, he was seated on a pedestal in the netherworld where he would act as judge. So, like, again, this guy was a king, dies, goes to the netherworld, hosts a big party, becomes a judge in the netherworld because he was a king.
Yeah.
He can't be a king in the netherworld because there are gods there.
Yeah, it's like, well, you can't quite be a king, but you can be a judge. You can.
Right.
You're still in charge.
Right.
You make big decisions.
Oh, yeah. So this is where we get the concept of like how we get the ghost out of a body.
Okay.
From it's called the moment of death is like the name of the section.
1900
BCE, so 1900 BCE.
Got it.
We get a tale about the god Ashki and his sister Egime.
Egime.
Ashki lies dead, and it is up to Egime to deal with everything. Most importantly, she is to declare aloud the formal utterance, "His wind has blown away," signifying that he is dead. The word chosen for wind in the text references specifically the last breath that a person exhales. This process, someone saying the wind has blown away, is similar to modern people checking for a pulse or seeking a person's breath before declaring death. In early Sumerian tradition, at this point, the etemu, the ghost, is still trapped inside the corpse, and there is a ritual to release said ghost. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, I was like, are you going to tell us?
On the death of her brother, Egime is to fetch a bed and a chair, together with a small, specially made statue. A garment is laid on the chair. The statue is covered. Egime rubs the figure, so this little statue, with bread and pours water into the libation pipe, for they are before the grave. So this is all pre-funeral, okay? This is the funeral. And bread and water represent the first funerary offerings that will therefore be owed to the deceased thereafter. The dead Ashki is now renamed Lulil, meaning literally spirit man. This same last breath idea underpins the Sumerian literary composition sometimes entitled The Traveler and the Maiden. The maiden's beloved is dead, and this is how she acts. So now we're going to get a little actual text from Sumerian. I dipped bread and wiped him with it from a covered bowl that had never been untied, from a bucket whose rim was unannealed. I poured out water, the ground drank it up. I anointed his body with my sweet-smelling oil. I wrapped up the chair with my new cloth. Wind had entered him, the wind came out, my wanderer from the mountain. Henceforth he must live in the mountain, capital M mountain, which is the netherworld. Both passages emphasize the three ritual components needed that will enable the ghost to be seen off by means of liberating pronouncement. So, like, how the fuck do we get this ghost out of the body? 1, a clay effigy of the deceased. This was oiled and dressed and imbued with the identity of the departed and could or would be symbolically maintained within the family dwelling to provide a focus for remembering them and maintaining their presence, similar to an ofrenda. Except for instead of a picture, it's a little guy.
Well,
Little
because
guy,
that's what
They're not
that's
pictures.
what it's gonna be what their version of like
Having a picture.
keeping pictures on the mantle.
Right.
are,
They have
right?
you have a little
You have a
effigy,
little effigy.
and it's like
Or-
that's
or
dad.
even like a little urn.
Yeah.
Like that
Right.
that is
It's similar to that.
yeah.
It's like this is dad.
That's grandpa.
Yeah. 2, a special chair for the ghost. Okay, so you have this chair that's
Ghost
wrapped
chair.
wrapped in cloth. 3, grave goods. These consist of what the deceased would need for the journey when he arrived. The emphasis is on providing food and drink. Once in the netherworld, the sustenance available to the ghost was, according to some authorities, inferior, and there is no doubt that the persistent emphasis on these offerings reflects sympathetic awareness of this situation. So it's like
Food sucks there.
you have to give your dead loved ones bread and water because the food in the afterlife is garbage. It's ash. You have to feed them. They're gonna not have full tummies if you don't feed them.
Mm-hmm.
And if this afterlife is exactly the same as our life, you need to eat. So, funerals. Funeral offerings would be provided by Mesopotamians. They were designed to ensure that the atemu that they would be sending off with dignity and respect, and that they would stay in the afterlife.
Don't
right?
come back now.
Yeah. And so it was expected that this would be maintained in perpetuity. Like you would continue this forever. It would keep them happy and prevent them from coming back from the netherworld.
Yeah, and so you continue to feed and water.
You continue to feed and water them. Part of this long drawn out ritual of releasing the spirit and then the funeral itself is probably due to the long held human belief of the fear of being buried alive. Like this was a process, right? You had to double check that he was dead. You have to do all this, like you touch the body a lot. Like you rub them down with oil, with this like scented oil. that's also blessed to help get the spirit out. And so it's like if somebody is having some sort of episode and they are not dead and you touch them a lot, hopefully it will wake them up, right?
Yeah.
They had a lot of omens within the culture about dead people rising from the grave, probably from someone having been buried alive. Let's talk about some ghost banishment. One of the characteristic techniques in the first millennium Akkadian banishing magic is to list the types of ghosts that might be causing trouble among the populace in order to pin down the guilty party. So
Tell me your ghosts.
literally, well, I don't have them yet. They come up in a second. It's literally like Bob, Dan, Steve.
Yeah, like that's the thing. It's like tell me.
Yeah,
Who are you?
Who
Who's
are
here?
you?
It's like when we go, who's here with us? Can you tell us your name, right? You want to know
Is
who you're
Mike
talking
here?
to. You want to know who you're talking to. Each ghost's case must be presented to Utu, as he was known to the Sumerians, Shamash to the Babylonians, before their ghost could be dispatched to the netherworld. So realistically, even before you do the funeral, there's a little bit of a judgment ceremony. Not similar to Christianity, because there's no heaven or hell. It is simply, do you get to go to the netherworld?
Do you get to go in the club or no?
Yeah.
It's
Do you
like a
get,
bouncer.
yeah. Do you get to go to the netherworld, or are you a wandering ghost? Those are your choices. And it's not really a punishment because you're just a ghost.
Yeah.
And the netherworld isn't like rad.
Right. It's just,
Right.
you're just
So-
there.
We have this thing that is said, Utu, behold, Utu, let me speak a word to you. To my word, let your ear. Let me go for judgment. May you pay attention to it. Words from heaven reach earth. Words from earth reach heaven. The word of the living man is precious to the dead man. The word of the dead man is precious to the living man. So that's how you would start this talking to Utu to try and get your dead loved one
Through the
taken.
gate.
Yeah, and it's either Utu or Shamash. It's the two different
Yeah.
words. So there are three different categories of man, essentially. Category 1 is a good man who is to be served with food and water in perpetuity within the family home. So he's like a good boy. He did
Yeah.
his job. And so then you say this, if that is the case. The rites are set up for him in his grave. On the day of the dark moon, the day of the funeral offerings, bread is placed for him. Radiance is there in the netherworld. Through his large libation pipe, honey, beer, and fine butter is poured down into it. All the time he is held in respect, let his name be pronounced. On the day he should be present for sweet things, any evil-doing entity should not be present. The living man shall be present in front of you. The dead man must not be discouraged, must not lose heart. His heart afflicted by evil should not be carried to. May Utu absolve his sin. May Utu undo it in front of you. A sin that has not been revoked, a destructive curse that has not been undone. He's fine, kind of thing.
What is this libation pipe?
So there
they
is
keep talking
literally
about?
in the house,
Like a tube.
like picture a
Uh-huh.
PVC pipe with a funnel on top
Yep.
that goes into the ground
To the graves.
to not next to the
The
graves.
pit.
It goes to the netherworld, according to the Assyrians.
Got it.
It's a long pipe that goes into the ground.
Okay.
That basically they pour liquid. That's where they put the liquid.
Yeah, that's where they put their offerings.
The
Their-
liquid
their-
offerings. The food offerings they put on like an altar and then they dispose of them. They burn them or what have you.
Okay.
But they do give offerings of bread and offerings of liquid. The liquid they fully pour into the underworld or the
Okay.
netherworld.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So like picture dumping something down the sink and you're like, it goes somewhere. That's kind of what this is like. So then there's
It goes
category
out. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it goes out to somewhere. Category 2 is a man who had committed some unspecified offense with regard to his son.
Okay.
So he's held up for judgment. A good man, Utu's like, you're good.
Yeah.
Go
He's
through.
done a crime to his son.
This is specifically an unspecified offense with regard to his son. He's held up for judgment, which can lead to a troublesome ghost. So that we have the following. There's a lot of me just reading at you, unfortunately.
That's fine.
This person, son of his personal god, he whose judgment has not been passed, whose case has not been decided, is a ghost who frightens people in dreams, is a ghost who works evil against men from a place of murder, turning the living man into the ghost of a dead man. Family ghost roaming about at the outskirts of the city where you receive your verdict, body of a ghost lying in the netherworld, speak up. Be it a ghost wandering about in the netherworld, let the family ghost go, let honey and butter be cut off. If it is a hostile ghost that has not been released, as long as you have not been taken away from your body, as long as you have not been removed from your body, and if the ghost is like a good family ghost, let food be cut off, let water be cut off, let water be cut off from his water pipe. So that's like this could be after the funeral because it's like an annual thing. You do these offerings. The dead.
So this is not like an everyday offering.
No, it's not every day. Let the dead man who committed sacrilege to his son on that day, his sin should be absolved before Utu. Let the dead man eat in front of his house. Let him drink in front of his house. Let him sleep in the shade of his house. May his son pour water into the sacred pipe for him. May he place food on his grave. May he pour water into his grave. So basically it's like, depending on how bad it is, the son can decide if he forgives his daddy and re-ups the offerings or cuts them off. And basically that's a like after a year kind of thing. They'll do the initial offering at the funeral because that's respectful.
Yeah.
But after that, he may be cut off. And that's bad.
Yeah.
Then we have category 3. A man who has done evil to his son, which has transgressed some limit set by the gods. He has his name obliterated, and his ghost is restless forever.
Damn.
Which we get after he has overstepped the borders of the gods to pass judgment on that man. Let it be in your mind. Let food be cut off from him. Let water be cut off from him. Let no libation water be poured into his libation pipe. Do not let the body of the family ghost be approached. Let it roam about. Let the Anuna gods wipe out his name, which are the underworld gods.
Wow.
Be it a ghost roaming about in the netherworld, or an evil ghost, or an evil god, or evil Lamashtu, or a girl caught by a storm, or a ghost who has no one to take care of him, or a ghost who has neither father nor mother, or a ghost who has no one to invoke his name, or a ghost who has no one. It's a long list of ors. Basically, it's like to all of those.
Yeah.
It is important to note that unlike systems in the future, the judgment is not based on his overall character or morals or behavior, but specifically tied to his familial relationships, specifically how he treats his sons.
Interesting.
So this like dedication to the continuation of the family line was really important in Mesopotamian culture and like is a through line in this. And then this is the last one that I'm going to read from this chapter.
Okay.
This was a curse that was found in a royal grave.
Okay.
This statement was found in the tomb of Queen Yaba. Yaba. At the command of Shamash, Ereshkigal, and the Anuki, great gods, Anunnaki, I can't read, the great gods of the netherworld, mortal destiny caught up with Queen Yaba in death, and she traveled the path of her ancestors. Anyone in time to come, whether a queen who sits on the throne or a palace lady of the palace who is a royal favorite, who removes me from my tomb or places anybody else with me or lays his hand on my jewelry with evil intent or breaks open the seal of this tomb. Above, beneath the rays of the sun, may his spirit roam abroad in thirst. Below, he is not to receive with the Anunnaki any offering of libation of water, beer, wine, or meal, but rather may Ningishida and chief doorkeeper Behuda, or Bedua, great gods of the netherworld, inflict his corpse and spirit with the eternal restlessness. Don't fucking touch my shit in my death. And if you do, fuck you. Curses.
Curses be upon ye.
End of chapter 3. So chapter 4 is called Everyday Houses, Burials, and Ghosts.
Cool.
For the ordinary Mesopotamian, ghosts were just like a fact of life. There was no believing or not believing in ghosts. They simply were.
Okay.
Family were buried in the ground beneath the home and were easily accessible if need be. This also meant that their ghosts could, reasonably, reappear in their home. And it was rare that said ghosts would ever leave such a place of comfort as their own home. It seems that this direct link between commonplace ghosts and the burial inside the home cannot be ignored. Ghosts are there because the people are there and because the remains are there. Like, just like we think of, like cemeteries are often haunted because there's people buried there.
Right.
Or
it's like that's where the body is, so that's where the soul is.
Right. And also,
that's where the soul
taking away from that, people often haunt places where they had spent a lot of time.
Exactly.
So like if it's your house, of course you're gonna be.
It's like, and that's where I'm comfy. I'm going
That's
back
my house. That's where my bed is.
Mm-hmm. Get all my shit.
So we've
Especially if you're not buried with a whole lot of stuff. Like
right. My
that's
stuff's
where
in this
your
house.
stuff is.
That's where your stuff is. So we have a couple of different kinds of burials. So I've got a short list of those. Burial within a wall, which was specific usually for infants and children, would be buried within the wall of the home.
Interesting.
Earth or pit burial, body wrapped in a reed mat in a pit that was dug under the floor. That's like the most common.
Yeah.
Shaft graves, which often led to pit graves or a sarcophagus or a chamber. So that's like the royal ones. They're going to be a dug shaft and then a dug out pit, and then that's where the body is.
Okay.
And then they fill it in, and then they backfill the shaft. Jar or double jar burial. So one corpse could be buried in a large and lidded sealed jar, sometimes of a domestic type, others specifically made. So sometimes it would be like, oh, we already have this like big amphora kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're going to put dad in that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was, oh, we are a little wealthy. We're going to have a jar made for dad to be buried in.
You know, it's like, well, dad's kind of sick. we
know he's on his way out. We're gonna
get
do
a
it up a little
jar
bigger.
made.
Yeah. 2 jars joined at the mouth have also been found. It is a question whether such individuals will have died together if they are buried in such a way. So usually they're going to be really close in some way, and they're joined at the lids of the jars, a person in this jar and a person in that jar.
So would that be like husband and wife?
There's no like, it doesn't say, but it's usually people who died at the same time or around the same time and were close.
Okay.
In some way. It doesn't say more than that.
Sure.
A shirred grave, which is the body is covered with a blanket of broken pieces of pottery shards, pottery shards.
Yeah, shards.
Yeah. Sarcophaguses. Mesopotamian sarcophagus would usually be made out of ceramic and covered over. So it wouldn't just be like there is a sarcophagus in a big empty chamber. It was like they were burying people in a casket, like we do now. Characteristic shape is that of a bathtub.
Oh.
With which specimens have occasionally been confused in the past because they were ceramic. So when archaeologically digging one up, they're like, who buried a bathtub? And it's like, oh no, there's a Mesopotamian guy in here.
Oh my God, there's a guy in here.
And then, there's a guy. And most rarely specific structures, so like stone or brick rooms, like to put a buried person in.
Yeah.
Like those were the least common in this.
But they
time.
did exist.
They did exist, having like a chamber for burial. So now we're going to talk a little bit about tombs and omens surrounding building your tomb.
Okay.
So sometimes people would go, oh, I want a pot burial. That's the kind of thing I want to do. And the Mesopotamians loved an omen. They loved them. They loved omens. They loved making their life happen around things that someone else had said happened to them.
Hell yeah.
So we have this list of if a man builds a tomb in the month blank, blank will happen. We have some if-then statements.
Lovely.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say if a man builds a tomb in month blank each time. I'm just going to say month 1, this happens. Month 2, this happens. Just know that it means if a man builds a tomb, meaning his tomb. In month 1, that man will not grow old. In month 2, that man will die in his prime, which are 2 different things. In month 3, his ... will die, meaning we don't have that fragment of text. So his something will die. His house will be dispersed. So essentially his family will break apart. Month 4, evil will be released from the man's body.
Oh.
Pretty positive. 5, evil or death will be regular in the man's house. Boo. 6, pilfering women will remove the household lucky figure. Or it's the end of days. Don't build your tomb in month 6.
June?
7.
June? Is this before we have a...
There's 13 months.
There's 13, okay.
Yeah. So whatever 6 is in their calendar. 7, that man will not be buried in that tomb. So you're going to do all this work for nothing.
And then somebody else is going to be in there.
And then someone else is going to be in there. 8, that man's son will disperse his father's home. So basically your son will not keep your house.
Yeah.
And
your
your family will break apart. Yeah. 9, he will see profit. Someone will carry off his property. Okay.
Okay.
10, he will escape from hardship.
Sweet.
Pretty good month. 11, his god will build his house.
Oh.
Pretty good. Kind of
Cool.
vague. Pretty good.
I mean, that feels like he will have many kids and they will all be successful.
Yeah.
And the
12.
house won't disperse.
Yeah. 12, whatever he strives for, that man will achieve.
That's nice.
Or
Oh.
he will become upset.
Oh.
Yeah.
That sucks.
That's an odd or. 12 and a half, which is the last month.
okay.
Ishtar's wrath will be released from him. Don't do that
What
one.
does that even mean?
Right. So then we have focusing another set focusing on the day of the month in which you build your tomb.
Oh, so less particular of the month.
Of
but
the so it's like, oh, if you build it in January, this will happen. If you build it on the first day of any month, this will happen. Okay. So if you build it on the first day of the month, that man's days will be short. The second, he will die in his prime. The third, his son will die. The fourth, there will be an order of prominent person against him. Badness. 5, he will not be buried. He will not return from a journey he takes. 6, there will be divine terror for the man. 7, the hand of God will affect that man. 8, punishment of his God will be released from him. Most of these are not good.
No.
Do you want me to go through all 30?
No.
A 30?
It's a whole month.
It's a whole month.
I'm not going to go through all of them, but
No.
just it's important to note.
Every single one of them is bad. You just
They're
have to,
not. They're not all bad. There are some that are okay. There's
So everybody's digging their graves on the same day.
right. He will on the 14th. That man will grow old, so like he'll get to be old.
Everybody's doing, what is that? The second month, 14th day.
Yeah, or whatever.
Valentine's Day.
His day or the 26th. His days will be long. Like that's good.
Yeah.
And the 29th to me is the best day, the best one. His days will be long, and he will be buried in the tomb he built.
Great.
Yeah. So you want that. That's the day you want to be buried on.
Buried on or you dig your grave?
Dig your grave. That's the
dig
day you
your
want to
own
dig
grave.
your or you have your
grave dug.
grave dug, or you build the chamber you're going to be put in, or you have your pot made, or whatever for whatever kind of thing you're going to be put in. And it could also be like, oh, I want my libation pipe put in the house on this day.
Okay.
Because that counts as like making your tomb.
Yeah. Does everybody have their own pipe? Or is it just one pipe?
It's unclear.
Okay.
I think probably
That's a lot of pipes.
it is. I don't know. Because you do have to like acknowledge the person who you're offering to when you do it. So maybe not. Maybe it's just one per house. And you say like, this is for dad. This is for grandpa. This is for great grandpa. This is for great 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 grandpa. There's an inscription from this queen's tomb.
Okay.
And the wording of this inscription reflects the writer's understandable apprehension about the future. So this is what we've got. If ever, a long time from now, far into future time in the days to come, anyone should find this tomb, may he not clear it away. May he restore it. May that man who finds this not despise it. Rather, he should say as follows, this tomb I shall certainly restore it. May the favor he did be requited to him. Above, may his omens be prospicious. Below, may his ghost drink pure water. So it's like, if you find this grave, treat it well. And if you do treat it well, I hope that you have a long, prosperous life, and that after you die, you are given all your offerings.
Yeah.
Chapter 5, Living with Ghosts. Now we get into like all of the shit. I know we've been talking for an hour about all of the shit, but this is where we get like, here's what ghosts were actually like.
Okay.
Again, it starts with reiterating that ghosts were commonplace, a fact of life, and entirely taken for granted in Mesopotamia. There was not an abstract concept to be believed in or not. They just were.
Yeah.
And they just were so much that there were countless rituals and rites concerning what to do rather than if one was encountered. It's a when, not if. when you encountered one, not if, this is what you should do. So, like, for us, it's like, if you encounter a ghost, XYZ. For the Mesopotamians was, when you meet a ghost, this is what you do.
Yeah.
So similar to our belief, like modern belief that ghosts have some unfinished business or something, we find out that Mesopotamians believed that ghosts who had been wronged in some way in life would come back, or ghosts of people who had been forgotten by their descendants would come back. Sometimes those ghosts still became a nuisance that needed to be dealt with, and that's how we get these like magical ghost tablets, specifically talking about like what to do when you find a ghost. So we have this specific thing that's like, Shamash, I cried out to you, listen to me. In your presence, let me live a full life. A ghost smites against me again and again. A ghost is making me ill. A ghost afflicts me. Like, calling out to the gods, being like, Shamash, this ghost won't leave me alone. Help. Help.
Help.
Yeah. And then you do this roll call of ghosts after you've called out to Shamash for your help. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to read the first couple of lines, and I will tell you it is a full page long of calling out to specific ghosts. I called this roll call.
Okay.
Whether you be a strange ghost whose name nobody knows, or a roving ghost, or a roaming ghost, or the ghost of someone who was abandoned in the steppe, or the ghost of someone who drowned in water, or the ghost of someone who drowned in a river, etc. There are tons of this, like a ghost who died of hunger, the ghost of someone who died of thirst. This list, which is again a full page, has to be repeated thrice to make sure that the ghost heard you and found his title in that list.
Yeah.
And then you say this 3 times. This is short. He should speak that 3 times, and then he pours out a libation of water, then prostrates himself. So that on the ground. If the ghost who afflicts him cannot be dispelled, you have him do it again 3 times. The 3rd time, you have the patient lift up water in the skull of a dog before Shamash, and then he says as follows: The ghost who afflicts me and cannot be dispelled from my body, I pour out a libation of water to him from the skull of a dog. He should pour out that water of libation, and the ghost will be kept away. So it's literally a ritual of like, you call out to God, you say, someone is fucking trying to kill me as a ghost. Like, I'm getting absolutely fucked with. Help, 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 help. And then you say, whoever you are, 3 times. Help.
Leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah, and then if that doesn't work, you say it again 3 times, and you do the libation out of a skull of a dog, because that is going to help for some reason.
Yeah.
So this is it's a shorter list, but it's like possible ghosts that you're going to encounter. There's 2 different groups. There's individuals unhappy or resentful. So people like a ghost who has no grave, an unburied ghost, someone who has no one to care for him, a ghost who has no one to take charge of him, a ghost who has no one to make funeral offerings, a forgotten ghost. Like these are all specified like as different kinds of ghost. Ghost of a relative versus the ghost of a stranger are 2 things. A persecuting ghost, a runaway ghost, the ghost of an evil man, a murderous ghost. And then we have this list, which is really interesting to me because these are like the listed in the same list as like murderers. We have a ghost of a woman who died a virgin, a ghost of a boy not yet at puberty, a ghost of a man who died unmarried, the ghost of a woman who died in childbirth, the ghost of a woman who died suckling her child, the ghost of a weeping woman who died suckling her child, the ghost of a wet nurse, and the ghost of a wailing woman.
These seem very specific.
I didn't read the whole list. They're all very fucking specific.
No, it's just very it's an odd specificity for like to go alongside murder.
It's odd that they're with murder.
Yeah.
And then group 2 are individuals who met bad ends. So those are like something that happened to them made them restless. This is the way they died is what made them restless. So like someone who was killed in battle, someone who was killed in a weapon. I'm not going to read all of these again. Someone who was not covered, like someone who was not buried.
I thought you just meant like naked.
No. Someone who was drenched by a storm, someone who was submerged by the storm god. There's a lot of different wet ones. Someone who perished on a riverbank, someone who drowned in water, someone who died of hunger, someone who died of hunger in prison. That's specific. Someone who died of
Not
thirst.
just hungry and in jail.
Yeah, someone who died of thirst. Someone who died of thirst in prison. Those are two different ones. So these are all, and again, when you do these ghost rituals in Mesopotamia, you list all of these things. So it's a lot. From this list of all of these different kinds of ghosts, we get the ghost omens, which are like a specific list of things of what different kind of ghost experiences would mean for the person experiencing that, right? There's a series of tablets known as the If a City ... tablets, which is a list of omens. The first section all begin with If a City, which is where we get the name. And so it's like, if a city is on a hill, this will happen. It's like the
if this in this month, then
right.
this.
If you build your tomb in this month, this will happen.
If
we get
on
those
this day,
omens.
this will
We get
happen.
those omens from the If a City tablets. Like it's all this series of tablets, but it's called If a City because of that. There's a list of ghost omens, that are in this tablet. So there are familiar ghost omens. So these are like the ghosts of family.
Right.
If a ghost in a man's house makes an appearance, dispersal of the house. So if you see a dead relative in your house is going to break apart. Like your house meaning like your family.
Wild.
Most of these, it's that kind of thing. If a ghost in a man's house moans above the bed, relocation of bed and house. Move your home.
Wow.
If a ghost is over your bed going, get out of there, basically.
No, thank you.
Again, there's a lot of those, like, different kinds of omens. Those are just some examples. There's one in this that specifically refers to if a ghost cries out in a man's house and one who can hear hears it, overthrow of the house, the man will die and mourning will follow.
Wow.
So that doesn't mean a hearing person as opposed to a deaf person. It references someone who can hear spirits,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
is
like a
possibly the
medium.
first ever reference to mediumship
Yeah.
as we know it today. Like it's specifically, and there's also that in reference to if a ghost appears and someone who can see
Like a
sees
seer
it,
or a
right. So it's that same, like, there are references to mediumship in these tablets,
Mm-hmm.
which is odd. So then there's a list of unfamiliar omens. And in this other list of omens, we get if a ghost appears in the morning, if a ghost appears at noon, if a ghost appears in the afternoon, if a ghost appears in the early evening, late evening, and night. So it's interesting that not only are these ghosts visible in broad daylight, but the time of day when you see it changes what might happen to you.
It's
in
very
this.
odd.
Yeah. We also get some specific ones that sound like they're referencing possession in this. Like we get if a ghost in a man's house enters the ear of the owner of the house, dispersal of the house, and they're all entering the ear. So it's like if a ghost in a man's house enters the ear of a daughter of the house, her mother will die. Like odd possession. What is this? And then we have these last two that are odd. These last two omens reference ghosts entering the house. So it's not a ghost that's already there, which means it's probably not.
Like it's a wandering ghost.
It's not a familiar ghost. It's not a household ghost. It's not a family member. It's not your dad. It's somebody else coming into your home, which is really odd and foreboding.
Yeah.
And again, there's a lot more omens of like, if where it gets interesting is they start referencing instead of if a ghost in a man's house does this to if a dead man. And that's kind of how they distinguish between a familiar ghost and an unfamiliar ghost. So a ghost in a man's house is probably going to be somebody that you might know. It would be a family member or whatever. A dead man is still a ghost.
Just an unidentified.
Unidentified ghost. And the way that they're described as dead man is it's like, this looks like there's just somebody in your house that you don't know. It's a guy in clothes in your house, and you're like, who are you? And then he vanishes. Classic ghost story. Who are you?
Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Most of these ghosts were familiar, and even when they were threatening, it was at least known who they probably were. Like, you probably knew who it was. The scarier possibility was that of an unknown ghost tormenting your house. This could have been a killer in life and simply continuing their work of torment, or someone's ghost bent on tormenting their own family or known entities stuck in a case of mistaken identity. Based on these ghost omens, it's clear that like it was not a good thing to see or encounter a ghost. It happened a lot, but it wasn't good. And because of this, one of the most important things was giving your grave offerings.
Right.
Like, these duties were give grave offerings to your loved ones so that way they will stay dead
And
not
don't come
back
to bother you.
Yeah. So this is a quick little guy. You, the ghost of my family, creators of us all, of my father, my mother, my grandfather, my grandmother, my brother, my sister, of my family, kith and kin who all sleep in the netherworld, I have made offerings to you. I have treated you with respect, heaped praise on you, honored you. Today do you stand before Shamash and Gilgamesh, judge my judgment, help me with my decision. So it's like a tit for tat kind of thing. It's like, I'm giving you food. You help me with the shit that I need help with. And because the ghosts are in the netherworld, they have a closer link to the actual gods. So they can probably, on behalf of you, talk to Shamash, who can help you.
Yeah.
So to continue with the like, this is commonplace, they saw ghosts all the time. For a Babylonian, just seeing a family ghost at first was a little like finding a mouse in the kitchen. A bit of a fright, a sense of irritation, and the knowledge that something would have to be done about it.
Like, son
It's
of
like,
a
God-
bitch. Like, get out.
God
Get out.
damn it. So chapter 6, ghost magic.
Oh.
Yeah. There's technically 2 ghost magic chapters. This one is called Words and Deeds. So we start seeing anti-ghost amulets. Now, originally they could have just been they didn't have any words on them. I didn't include that section because it's like that's not super interesting.
Right.
But we have these 2 cheap clay amulets that are the equivalent of buying a glass evil eye at a truck stop.
Ah.
Like these are mass produced.
like kitschy.
They have the exact same handwriting on them, and they are so vague. They say, "Spell of God, Asahuli, ghost, do not keep coming in."
So it's
Stay
basically
out.
like
Get out.
it's like just like a for general protection.
It's like putting a fucking horseshoe over your goddamn door.
Don't come in here. Don't come in here.
It's so funny to me. Then we get there's this old style Sumerian that is kind of like these words we don't actually fully know what they mean. So we have Zizig, Nu, Edis, Sagis, Luabdas, which sort of translates to among living things, do ye not come up, raise thy head, ye corpse. And I wrote, literally, it's like when fake mediums say some gibberish in Latin because it sounds good and old. Like
yeah.
these words are not
Yeah.
constructed in correct Sumerian. It's bad, old sounding Sumerian designed to sound archaic.
Ah, that tracks.
Very stupid.
It's scammy nonsense.
And then we get the concept of the magic of the number 7.
Oh.
So we
Ooh.
get these banishments that are, you say the word God 7 times and the word ghost 7 times and then the rest of the incantation, and that will make sure that the ghost is banished. God, 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 God. Ghost, 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 ghost. The magic of the number 7.
Get out of my house.
Get out of my house, you wispy motherfucker. Then we have the first recorded magical mumbo jumbo, similar
Oh.
to abracadabra. It meant nothing, but sounded good and would put
Sick.
people's minds at ease. And the
Wonderful.
practitioner didn't have to expend too much energy to get the job done. They could go in the house and go blah, 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 blah,
Blah,
blah.
blah.
And people were like, yes, good.
Good.
Good,
I
good,
feel
good,
so
good,
much
good.
better.
Yeah. So then I'm going to just pull up the pages to skim. So we have the title of this section is That's Enough.
Done.
About exorcisms.
That's it.
Exorcisms
out.
were necessary in Mesopotamia because ghosts could cause a vast variety of illnesses
Oh.
in people that they chose to possess. So there's this like whole section about doing these exorcisms. And there's a couple of different things that you could do. You could call out specifically to Shamash. You could just like bully the ghost out of the body. There were a bunch of different ways to kind of bring this exorcism about. I have to get to the right page because that was like 6 pages of exorcism.
Right.
The ritual is really specific and deal like this specific one that's in here talking about somebody who's really sick because of this ghost incursion, this
Mhm.
possession. And so it's like you have to do it at a specific time in the astrological calendar to make sure that the ghost gets out, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very specific,
Right.
as these kinds of rituals often are.
Uh-huh.
So that way you have to have a specific practitioner come do it. You can't
Yeah.
just do it yourself. So then we get the second half of this ghost magic concept, where we get pictures and conversations.
Mm.
This whole chapter is about a series of tablets that have drawings in them.
Oh, that's neat.
There are very few clay tablets that survive with ghost figurines in them that like exist. Like these drawings at all are rare as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that we have several that depict ghosts specifically is
crazy.
interesting.
Crazy.
Like we have 3 different drawings that relate to this.
Holy shit.
It talks in depth about how these drawings happen, but specifically these tablets that have these drawings on them are talking about these figurines that you make for exorcisms. It's like you need to make for this one. It's like the ghost that's in you wants your wife, so you have to make a figurine of a woman, and then that ghost can take that woman back to the netherworld with him.
That's so weird.
Right. It gets really interesting, however, because they introduce this character that is called Any Evil.
Oh.
So we're not sure what is in you. We're not sure what's possessing you. And
But
we get
it's clearly not good.
right, and we get again this list of the if you be yada yada yada. But they also put if you be any evil at the end of that. So it's like if we somehow missed what the fuck you are, you're still not welcome here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a specific drawing of what any evil looks like, which is fascinating. Oh, there's an actual I'm going to read this exorcism because it's fucking cool. And like Mike, this does not apply to you because you're not bad. May Shamus, king of justice, confound your plans. May the sage of the gods Marduk cover your face. May Ningeshtinana, female accountant, herald, and measurer, cut off your water in the underworld pipe. May Ningishdita, chamberlain of the broad underworld, turn back your breast. May Usumu, vizier of Eridu, send you away. May Ninurta, lord of weapons, smite your neck. May Dingirma, the great mother, curse you. Be abjured by heaven, be abjured by earth, be abjured by Shamash, the judge, my lord, may he send you away.
Jesus.
From the body of so-and-so, son of so-and-so, are you banished, torn out, sent away, do not turn back again. Before Shamash, my lord, you are abjured by the south wind, the north wind, the west wind, and the east wind. Any evil of so-and-so, son and so of so-and-so, I am the exorcist of Eridu, I abjure you, do not look behind you.
Jesus.
It's like, get out. Get out.
Leave.
Get out of this man.
Not
And
you,
it-
Mike. You're fine.
And it's like, not you, Mike. Yeah, you do not get out.
You know,
we
Mike,
love you.
you
You're a
can
good
stay
guy.
here.
You're not any evil. So it would be like, so-and-so, son of so-and-so, Aragorn, son of Arathorn. Like, and they would say that every time they did one of these. It lastly, in this chapter, talks of an interesting tablet depicting a woman walking a ghost back to the gates of the netherworld. So there's a drawing on this tablet of a ghost with his hands bound being led away by a woman.
Interesting.
And that is where we are going to end the first part of First Ghosts.
Dude, this is crazy.
Yeah, this is nuts.
So tune in next week or next time, because I don't know if we have a 4th episode coming out after this or what. Tune in next time for the second part of First Ghosts.
Thanks for listening.
This podcast is for weirdos.
Are you a weirdo?
Thursdays are for the phenomena.